All right. Let's get things bouncing. We live and running? Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. We up and running? All right. Hey, folks, welcome to the mix. Let me check my volume here. Hey, folks, welcome to the mix. Yeah, sounds like we're doing pretty good. Okay, cool. So we are getting back into the martial power system here. We've been developing for the past number of weeks a random generator for color land tiles. Let me fix my screen settings here so that y'all can see what we got going on here. Here's a bunch of books that I've created. Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica is a Warlock option, so that the 10 guilds of Ravnica are considered as otherworldly patrons that you can make your own pact with, your own guild pact, as it were, to become a guild mage for the guild in question, gain the background of it, and then gain access to a bunch of optional subclass and invocations. Theurgy is ability check casting, roll the die, cast the spell. Pretty cool. Color mana spell points is where all the MTG for 5e began, converting the 8 schools of magic into the 5-color magic system, replacing spell slots, ignoring the horrible spell points in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and instead using a very intuitive, down-to-earth, simple to apply, universal spell point system that you can also devote to colors or elements, or even paper, rock, scissors if you want to, or body, soul, and mind if you want to. It's a very flexible paradigm magic system that these books specifically focus on color as the 5 ways to separate spells and magic effects in 5e games, but it could be so much more. So check that stuff out. And we just launched Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. Woohoo! That book is now live on DMsGuild. All this stuff is live on DMsGuild. If you want to check out any of that stuff, you can kick in through here in the link down below. Here's the full playlist of all 129 episodes we're up to on the Martial Powers playtest system. You can actually access the Martial Power rules here through my Patreon as read-only playtest content. You can play as any of the martial characters from level 1 to 20 alongside normal characters, or using the color magic paradigm. Here we have Spelljammer Combat and Exploration on DMsGuild, the 5-color mana system on DMsGuild, Pacts and Patrons on DMsGuild, Theurgy ability check casting. You can join my Discord community through my Patreon about page. While you're there, you can chip in $1 to help encourage such behavior in the future. So, hey-yo, let's get into it. So the Martial Power playtest content here is built for barbarians, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, and rogues to have the same color mana system to trigger different sort of effects that those classes have, so that they can have the same quadratic growth options that casters have, thus eliminating the divide between spellcasters and martial characters. What's the big difference? Martial characters have more and more combat options per round, as opposed to just using a standard action to cast a cantrip that has auto-scaling damage. You have more variables, more options to use different mechanics that are effectively equal to what you can do with a cantrip if you use this martial power system. So you have point spend to have like leveled up abilities, and you have cantrip-like effects that scale up as well. So a lot of cool stuff here for you guys to dive into. I've spent 120 some odd episodes diving through the mechanics of how like the barbarian mana pool works, how the monk works, how the ranger works, the paladin works, the fighter, the rogue, the invocations that warlocks can use with martial power, the infusions that artificers can get using martial power, and how how full casters don't get any of it. So that's the front end gist of stuff. There's the DM section towards the back of the book here. We're currently up to 114 pages in the document, and probably about the last 30 of them are talking about like how to select a magic paradigm, whether it's elemental magic, color magic. We can also do paper, rock, scissors if you want to be if you want to make a schoolyard campaign for your 5e game, like Strixhaven. Strixhaven should be color, but if you want to go Harry Potter, you could like I don't know, like maybe gesture versus nonsensical words. you can break the paradigm of Magic between those two different paradigms. Creatures can be kitted to use powers just like characters can, so you can have an infinite variable number of goblins. For instance, you could have artillery goblins lobbing things at you. You can have brute goblins that are tanky. You can have controller goblins like shaman adepts or warlords that control what characters can do. Lurkers to sneak attack, little sneaky goblins. Skirmisher goblins are hit and runners. Soldier goblins work together as cohesive units to give each other action economy and to create synergy in your Gestalt combat options. And then you can have a solo goblin, which would be like the chieftain, for instance. So you have a stack of like pre-built options here that you can just lay this template on. Or you can just pick and choose from the 200 different powers that are available throughout the book, as well as giving power gear for alternate magic item options in the book. It's a pretty thorough document. It's still in its playtesting form right now. Once this thing glosses over and gets prettied, it's going to be a great piece to add to the rest of the color mana system that we will be updating in September when the new player's handbook comes out. It's a great opportunity for us to glam up all the previous works that we've done in this endeavor. We got 10 sample characters so that when we actually start playtesting at 3rd level, if you don't come to the table with your own build, you can just grab one of these dudes and mess around with them and then swap them out on a short or a long rest if you want to try something different. And then we have the actual Rubblebelt campaign environment, where we get to actually run around and use these inside of a Ravnica style campaign. It's a West March hex crawl style of game where your characters are lost in the Rubblebelt, escorting non-combatant NPC civilians that need to be kept safe from all of the threats of the wilds of Ravnica can offer in the Rubblebelt. So your job as players is to pick a path through the Rubblebelt, the different lands that are present, and to basically select a tile to explore, secure, and then move your caravan forward into, and before picking another tile to move forward through. As a West March campaign, you're going to move westward. So the goal is to start in this block, and then each of these little squares here is a 10-mile space that takes roughly 5 hours to traverse. The goal, as a DM, my goal is to see if I can construct tiles that can be reasonably resolved with a short rest resource. If I end up failing and it takes a full day to go through a single tile, then we'll just calibrate it so that that's the pacing that we have. But each region occupies a 3x3 grid. Each square in the grid is a 10-mile space, so this is a 30-mile space, a 30-mile region. Here, the default color in this region is blue, so stacking up tiles on top of it, the blue region with a white tile, that's going to be Azorius territory. If it's a blue on blue, it could be any of the 4. So it could be, in this instance, it could be Azorius, it could be Dimir, it could be Izzet, it could be Simic. So once you get into like a blue space, then we'll randomly roll it. So we've completed the initial random dice to be able to create tiles and all the threats that lie within it. So I'm going to spend some time today with y'all basically building out tiles and seeing what kind of story or immersive gameplay can evolve from this. So as a DM, if you haven't played hex crawl campaigns, it's really worth your time to go check out the old BX Expert box set, or the old Avalon Hill game from the 70s called Wilderness Survival, or check out the Wilderness Survival Handbook from First Edition TSR, or jump on ttrpg, or go to Hex Press and check out any number of hex crawl style game campaign kits, where it basically provides you with tiles to fill into a grid, and each tile is going to have a mix of monsters, hazards, and riddles and discoveries for your characters to interact with no real assumed storyline beyond we're exploring space and seeing what is out there for us to discover. So for this campaign, we're going with squares because I'm a square kind of guy. Cheers. And it's a Rubblebelt campaign, so this is taking place in the vast reaches between civilized society on the There's a word that means a city that covers the entire planet, and that's what Ravnica is. But Ravnica also has a problem with worms. 20-mile-long worms that are like a mile wide apiece. So these worms will surface, tread through the city, and then sink back down again in either a migration pattern across the world or during mating season. But it leaves these large strips of just decimated infrastructure and buildings that immediately lose power. These are called rubble belts because they look like belts that are basically saddling across the landscape. And there could be hundreds of, if you run into a worm migration, there could be hundreds of miles worth of this strip of destroyed land. And it would literally take hundreds of years to rebuild all of the infrastructure to reclaim that lost territory in the city, assuming there's any interest in doing so. Some areas just might not have anything very valuable that needs to be recovered, so it becomes a very low priority for the government to fund rebuilding it, which means there could be any number of Gruul clans that lay claim to it, guild conclaves or separatists that have been exiled from their own guild, so they go start their own thing. There could be generations of sentient creatures that don't even know who the guilds are, that have just grown up in a provincial town that just happens to be out in the rubble belt, not knowing that someday Rakdos demolition operatives are going to show up and start just nuking the whole area and killing everything that's there to clean it out for infrastructure rebuild. Behind Rakdos will flow in Izzet to start manufacturing and rebuilding all the tech, the ley lines, hooking up all the plumbing, rebuilding the power conduits, the mana flows, and then Boros will come in and secure the area. Selesnya will then come in and start farming the outreaches of the area to start providing a food supply as Izzet continues to build up the buildings again inside of the region that they've reclaimed. And eventually Azorius will come in, resaddle the area, and have a senator oversee the reclaimed area, which will then lead to Dimir coming in to try to corrupt it. So it's the ebb and flow of destroyed and rebuilt cities. It could be literally thousands of years before infrastructure shows up back again. Your characters have a small story nugget in that they're in an ornithopter, which is basically like a flying, like an airship. That is either traversing the rubble belt to get to another city region on the other side of the belts, or it could be out there to survey the land to assess if it's ready for infrastructure improvement. The rules of the campaign is that any guild can be represented amongst the envoy, except for the Gruul clans. The Gruul clans default as enemies because they technically rule the rubble belts, or informally rule the rubble belts. So they start off as enemies, but can be allied. There are many opposing guilds, like Rakdos and Boros are pretty much hated, like pretty much hate each other. But for the sake of the campaign, they have a neutral truce that if you have a Boros and Rakdos character in the group, they're not fighting each other. They're using their diverse resources as different types of backgrounds to be able to create a sufficient party to be able to explore the rubble belt for the benefit of those involved. So I think I like the idea of you were supposed to be surveyors, that your ornithopter wrecked for some reason. There could be a random reason why it wrecked, either weather, monsters, rogue magic, sabotage. So there's basically 4 different ways why your ship crashes in the rubble belt, but now you got to get out. And the quickest way out is to head west. Thus, we begin a west march campaign in a hex crawl style, land crawl, a color land crawl campaign, where you're basically going from colored tile to colored tile. overcoming the hazards, obstacles, creatures, and enchantments that may be trying to prevent you from proceeding, but savvy characters can form alliances, delve beneath the surface to find forgotten temples, data centers, or factories that may have resources or information that you might be looking for. If we end up publishing this as a thing for people to play through on DMsGuild, we could have subplots like your mission is to find the lost tomb of Bishop Bloodright, or Bishop Bloodthirsty, who knows? And maybe he's become a vampire in the time that the Rubblebelt fell. He saved his life by becoming undead. And maybe he's trapped in that vault someplace in his church that's been buried beneath the crush of worms. So if your team if your mission as an Orzhov representative is to find that tomb, if you find it, well, now there's a bunch of undead and they don't care who you are. They want to enslave you so they can start rebuilding their own Orzhov church on the surface again, not realizing how many hundreds of years that may have gone by and how completely irrelevant they are. But they got stuff that you want. So avoid the vampires, get the stuff, for example. Or like there may be like a forgotten experiment. Like, yeah, some people were experimenting on plane shifting to other Magic the Gathering universes, but that tech got crushed during the last Rubblebelt Stampede. So somewhere out in the Rubblebelt, there's an Azet factory that had, if the documentation that remains is accurate, had a potentially working planar gate that could get you to some place called Innistrad or Zendikar or wherever it is that you want to take your campaign next. The way to get there may be to find that portal machine that's buried 500 feet beneath the surface because of Rubblebelt, because of Earthgrow and Worldworm crushing everything underfoot. It's in there someplace. You just got to get it. So that might be your win condition. Or you could just tack this into your campaign. If you're running a 1 to 20 level campaign and your characters are like level 5 or 7 or something like that, and you want to get out of the current city and you want to change the pace a little bit, you can start doing a Rubblebelt color land crawl for a while, pick an objective and go for it. So I think if we were to build this out and finally publish it in maybe a year or so, we'll be able to add some of those plot ideas for why your characters would be there to build a group around. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to just look at the toolkit that's here, and again, you can read along or play along with us if you want by checking on the Martial Powers playtest content here. It's in my Patreon. You don't have to be a member of my Patreon to access this, but God bless you if you want to contribute to shenanigans like this. Shout out to the members of my Patreon that I have. If you are a paid member of Patreon, when I do play testing, seats are offered to paying Patreon members first, and then I go to my Discord and I offer remaining seats to folks that are there. And you also get voting rights for things that I'm going to work on next, blah, 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 blah. So jump in, check it out. This is a read-only document, but it is the full document, so you can check that out. While we're here, you may as well like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when I'm live in the future so you can see all the different projects that I'm working on. But right back into it, playtest design. So we're looking at the caravans. The Rubblebelt has 5 land types. Whites are for plains, blue for islands, B's for swamp, black, R is for red mountains, and G is for green forests. Each square this has been updated since then, so I decided to go with 30 miles, 5, and it takes 15 hours to traverse. Each square is a random tile color, 24 hours per day, 9 hours long rest. Tile terrain equals 30 miles. 3x3 square, each square equals 10 miles. 5 hours equals explore 1 tile plus short rest at the end of the exploration. Plus you move your caravan of NPCs into that tile. So 30-mile tile area is region, 10-mile time equals area. 30-mile tile equals a region, 10-mile tile equals land. When in an elevated area, you can identify what. Okay, so there's identification stuff. Let's see, elevation. So this is a random table. Thank you. This is a random table for generating these blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Elevation is going to be you randomly choose which land type. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Color. Roll. White. Blue. Black. Red. Green. Same as current. And then your elevation, depending on what color you've chosen. Like, let's pull out a D6. I'll just random one up for you guys real quick. So, random tile, 4. So, it's going to be red. So, it's going to be a red tile. So, I'm going to roll for elevation. D6, I roll a 4. It's going to be up. So, there's up. So, each color land either has an elevated surface, level, or sunken terrain. So, red as mountains are either going to be up or flat. Islands can be up, flat, or sunken. White is going to be either up or flat. Black is either flat or sunken. And then green can be either up, flat, or sunken as well. So there's a little bit of representation. Each of theirs that's thematic for the type of land that it is. Elevated and sunken terrain takes longer to explore. A ranger that has natural explorer for the color land involved isn't affected by the slowing of terrain. Map scale, we have that already. Land type by color for all elevations. Here we go. So we have our different elevation land types here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like elevated, like a flat white territory. Here's the generic 6 land types that we have pre-selected for them. This is the tile that we're going to build today. This upper right-hand corner, blue region, white land tile. So that defaults us to the land tile is more important than the region. So when we're looking at the land types by color and all elevations, we're looking at a level white land spot. So we're going to go to the white flat tile. We're going to roll a d6. I got a 3. Azorius Civic Center ruins, which is blue focused. That's fitting because we're in a blue region. So I'm going to go here to my first region. I'm going to go to blue, white, flat. Azorius Civic Center, which is going to have automated defenses and identity checkpoints as potential obstacles and hazards that you're going to have to deal with. Identity checkpoints is like if you don't have an identification or if you don't spend white mana, it can potentially trigger artifact or spirit guardians to repel you, to drive you from the region. Automated defenses means like traps. White, blue, focused magic traps that could attack the mind, could lock you in place until a detention officer comes by to free you, which will be never, because it's automated and it doesn't get the message that the Rubblebelt has taken claim to the region, that it's no longer populated. So if you get trapped in a cell here, you could just die there. So that's our starting point. You're entering what was an Azorius Civic Center at one point. It had restricted access, but since the fall of the Rubblebelt, the areas generally are just depicted as having gone rogue or off message. So you can't really guarantee the benevolence of anything that you run across there. You have to assume it's hostile and treats you accordingly. So we have our level white, blue, influence, ground. Let's scroll past the different land types to get into the challenges. So we roll a d6 to determine what type of challenges are going to be in the environment. So we're going to roll two. You roll two six-sided dice, so I got two sixers here. I roll a 3 and a 4. So 3 is going to be enchantments, which requires spending mana to resolve, but you could also like disarm it using arcana or like artificer tinker tools or rogue thieves picks if you can pick apart the magic. And 4 is going to be monsters that require either combat or negotiation to resolve them to no longer be hostile by deadening them or convincing them that they can be, you know, friends with you. So let's go here to hazards. Let's go to challenges. So we have monsters. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the monsters are first. We're looking at, we know it's a blue-white, it's a white tile in a blue region, which means Azorius. If it was a blue on blue, again, it could be any of the 4, but we're in Azorius territory specifically right now. So let's look at what the monsters by color. We got a D10 here. We have white. Let's roll a D10. I got a 9. Ooh, a cloud giant. Holy shit. Cloud giant. And what is the enchantment? Cloud giant of us is going to be really, really difficult for the team to contend with at 3rd level. So that's freaking great. Oh, we can go take a look at that here in a minute. Let's go down and look at the enchantments that are plaguing the region. Let's see. Die roll by character levels. So we're dealing with 3rd level characters. So we're going to roll a d4. We're going to roll 2d4. 2d4. Cool. So let's grab our d4s. Five. Moderate difficulty. Moderate challenge. Let's use English. Challenge. There we go. Let's see. 2-hour triggers. It takes 4 mana total to spend to shut down the enchantment, or 2 DC 16 checks, either with artificer tools, thieves tools, or arcana checks as a skill challenge. So once you find where the enchantment is, like the source of the enchantment, then you can attempt to disable it. So now that we know the intensity of the challenge, and the 2-hour frequency is like if there's a timing issue, this tells us how frequently the timing occurs, and that may or may not be relevant. We'll find out depending on what it is. So we're looking at enchantments by color. Let's see. I can do a D6 and a D6, so 2D6. Since this is an Azorius territory, let's pull them both to see what interesting things happen. I got a 1 and a 5. So, concerted effort. Creatures in the region, all monsters that are against the party gain attacks and abilities of other monsters that are within sight. Oh. So basically, all creatures gain the benefits of all other creatures that are in the area. So, like if you had, like if there was like a Medusa and a fire method, the creatures would all have flight, immunity to fire, be able to spit fireballs at you, and turn you to stone when they look at you. Like, that's the kind of combo that you can have. So let's add concerted effort for white. And let's go to blue. Equals We roll a 5. High alert. Monsters have sentinel feet and are hypertunistic. Hypertunistic is one of the powers and skills in the martial powers book. So let's go find that real quick. Hypertunistic. That music is really loud. Hold on, let me fix my volume. Yeah, I can hear that way too much. There's that, and maybe I just need to turn the music down in general. Let me check my jukebox here real quick. I'm a big Epidemic fan. There, I bet that's going to be better. Let's see. Okay, great. So we're in the blue terrain. So let's go check out blue. Oh, yeah. We were looking at high alert. So let's grab this. Blue equals high alert. There. I can still hear myself. Not happy about that, Bob. Not happy. Let's see. When there's enchantments, there's a dungeon where the enchantment is held. So the general terrain is going to be Cloud Giant, and then we have a dungeon. That's right. I was going to look up hypertunistic so you can see what that looks like. Hold on. Let's go fetch it. Hypertunistic. It is a 3rd rank power. So it would, if you were to use it, it would cost you 3 mana as a reaction. It'll be free for the creatures, which is when you make an opportunity attack, you can attack the same creature twice. So don't let them take advantage of you. Hypertunistic, fun stuff. And the Sentinel feat is, again, if you try to move within, area of them. Well, let's just look up the Sentinel feat real quick, because I forget what the exact wording is, but here we go. Sentinel. Can you find the feat? You got the feat. Here comes the feat. Here comes the feat. So when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed reduces to 0. Creatures provoke opportunity attacks from you even if they take the disengage action before leaving your reach. And when a creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a target... Hold on. Makes a target other than you, and it doesn't have this feat, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against the attacking creature. There you go. So, hypertunistic. If someone tries to attack while they're within your reach, you can attack them twice. If they try to leave your area, even if creatures will attack opportunities, even if they take the disengage action, that allows you to hit them twice. If you hit them during that point with either attack, their speed is reduced to 0 for the rest of the turn. So, creatures will have 2 opportunities to double tag you, and of course your characters can take that as well, but it will cost them dearly to use it. It's free for the creatures because they're benefiting from high alert. So that's where that's coming from. Sentinel feat and hypertunistic working together. Nasty combination. You might want to try picking it up yourself during the playtest. So that gives us an idea of what it is we're looking at. Highly soldierized type creatures that we're going to be dealing with. So they're all going to be basically, I'm thinking that I'm already thinking the Cloud Giant's going to be the region boss. And now I want to build the dungeon, so let's go down to the dungeon area. Why is that? No, hypertunistic's fine, thanks. Scroll down. No, I want to scroll up. Disable enchantments. Creatures. Dungeons. D4 plus 2 rooms. It's 1 challenge per 2 rooms rounded down. So we're going to roll a D4 plus 2. and we got a 4. So there's going to be 4 rooms. Equals 2 challenges. And then we go back to our challenge table here to look at our dungeon challenges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 of them, so I roll 2d6. So 4 and a 6. Monsters and environmental hazards. Each dungeon has a dungeon boss. So we're going to call the Cloud Giant the dungeon boss. We're going to go with monsters and hazard. So let's look at, we are in a dungeon. So this is going to be inside of the Civic Center somewhere. Civic Center somewhere. So the hazards, what were the hazards? Oh, that's right. We have the automated defenses and the identity checkpoints. These will be things that the Cloud Giant and its minions have control over and have somehow allied with the Civic Center. So let's see what kind of creatures the Cloud Giant is in command of. We're going to roll a d10 again to see what its minions are. Cloud Giant minions are a roll of 2. White Griffin. Huh. Griffins. So monsters equals griffins. With a Cloud Giant boss. That kind of jives. But I don't have to take the stuff that's given to us. What I think I'm going to do instead is make them owlins, which would be like Aarakocra. Aarakocra minions and a Cloud Giant boss. Let's see, hazard equals automated defenses. So that's our basic setup. That the dungeon, the enchantments are within a dungeon, which is the Civic Center, which has been abandoned. The Cloud Giant moved into the area, has taken control over it. Let's do this. Dungeon, monster. So it's questionable whether, your team could take on a Cloud Giant. Let's look up Cloud Giant, because we're going to be starting at, this is a 3rd level tile that we're looking at. So Cloud Giant. Cloud Gunt Giant. Cold Giant. No. Cloud Giant. Huh. Storm Giant, Goliath Giantkin. Cloud Giant's a thing still, right? They exist? Don't they? Am I crazy? I guess I've gone crazy. 5e Cloud Giant. I guess they're Storm Giant now? No, Cloud Giants. Fucking A, D&D Beyond. Yeah, it's right the fuck there. Why couldn't you find it? Their search engine sucks, man. What's your CR? 9? Whew, man, that's going to be a tough fight. Let's see. At will. Here's a stack of at will shit that this dude can do. Let's grab that and incorporate it into our piece. At will, detect magic, fog, cloud, light, 3 per day, feather, fall, fly, misty step, telekinesis, once per day each. Weather control, control weather in gaseous form. Nice. So it can use those, and it has attacky stuff, Morning Star, throw a rock. Any other cool shit you got going on here, Chieftain? High and mighty are spread to the winds, encompassing vast areas on the world in time of need. Scattered clouds, blah blah blah. Attuned to the magic area domain. Cloud giants are able to turn into mist, blah blah blah. Affluent princes, although cloud giants are lower in the ordering than storm giants, the reclusion. Storm giants rarely engage the rest of giant kind. As a result, many cloud giants see themselves as having the highest status and power among the giant races. They order lesser giants to seek out wealth and art on their behalf, employing you. Thank you, Timely Timer. Employing other giants as brutes and fodder. Children of the tricksters, patron gods and father of the cloud giants is a Mimnor the trickster. Interesting. Both in power. Huh. Cloud giants are inveterate gamblers with a hunger for high risk and high reward. This is your angle right here. To be able to trick it into a contest that you have advantages in, or to gamble and use your mana to manipulate your die rolls to get the results that you want. There's really cool potential here. So you could barter, with a good gamble, you could barter in. Yeah, let's make a thing here. Let's see. Social. Gamble. Compete for prize. Prize equals safety in the tile. Fail equals perform task for the giant. Safety in the tile. Gain recon about the surrounding lands. There you go. See, that makes sense. That's a cool setup. So you got Aarakocra that could potentially be attacking you to capture you to get information. If you try to sneak through the place, there's going to be automated defenses and identity checkpoints that are potentially going to trigger alarms that the Aarakocra and the Cloud Giant know about. Otherwise, it's a fairly level terrain. There'll be a spire somewhere for the Cloud Giant to be sitting upon. This is a fun tile. I could easily, as a DM or any DM that's experienced and familiar with hex crawl style campaigns, could easily throw together a couple challenges for you to be able to basically muck around inside of here for a couple hours. That would be hellacious fun. I'd be super down with that. So let's go ahead and file, save as. We have a stack here. We already created a blue tile as our first blush in the last episode when we finished the monsters. Let's go here to new text document, first region, bottom right, blue red. Open. No. There. That's our first tile. The middle one was a Lamasu that has pixie allies that's at war with a tribe of rogue Krasis, hybrid Krasises that were abandoned by Simic. So that's you got an insane Lamasu collecting knowledge for a broken library that thinks that the Krasis beneath the floating islands have stolen the books from it. It's quite insane. So it's hired all these pixies to go find those books, and the team could potentially help find books as well, as long as the team offers a book success. That's adjacent here in this top tile. We have the Storm Giant with its Aarakocra allies, and it is willing to. It's bored. It wants a gamble. It's willing to go there. There's probably some conflict between it and the Pixie as they bump into each other's lands. Now we're going to go with the level red tile. Blue red is Zet. So let's go through the same process here and see if I can crack through one of these things in short order. So we're looking at bottom right, blue, red, flat land. Next thing we want to do, again, is pick out, let's bump that to there. We want to pick out the land type, right? So let's go back up here to the top. We already know it's level. We know it's red. So now let's pick our land type. We're going to go with a red tile. Black, red. D6. I got a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, next page. 5. Thriving Bluff. So there's going to be extra monsters from both the blue, green, or there'll be extra monsters from blue, green, or red. And then any of the creatures out in the area are going to be awakened creatures that you can interact with on a social or exploration challenge. So Thriving Bluff. Extra monsters. There you go. So the next thing we want to do is determine the source of challenges that are in the area beyond that. We know there's going to be monsters guaranteed, and there's going to be beasts that are awakened. We know that as well. So let's go down here and see. We'll have a double dose of, we're going to have at least one dose of monsters, and then we'll see challenges. Here we go. We'll do a D6. So let's do, and each area has 2 challenges, so we'll roll twice, a 3 and a 4. So we got enchantments and monsters. There we go, same as before. Enchantments, monsters, and we get a double dose of monsters. So we're going to get a red monsters red, and we're going to get monsters blue because we got an extra dose of monsters from the extra monsters from blue, green, or red. We already got red because of the color. The specific color is red. The region is blue. Those are the 2 colors that make sense. So let's go back to our monster table here. And we got an enchantment. And the enchantment is going to mean a dungeon. So enchantments reside in dungeons. So let's first resolve. The dungeon's going to have D4 plus 2 rooms. We ended up with 5. So that means 2 challenges. Let's go back to our dungeon table to determine the 2 types of challenges that we'll have. It's going to be an enchantment, monster, or hazard. I got a 2 and a 5. So it's an enchantment and a hazard. So a double down enchantment and a hazard. Extra monster, awaken creatures. We already picked blue, so let's go into a sunken blue because that seems appropriate for the type of dungeon that we would find inside this area. Let's go to blue sunken, D6. I rolled a 3. Dimir Aqueduct, poison gas pockets and ooze-filled pipes. Ooh. Okay, so that's interesting. Hazards. Dimir Aqueducts. Gas-filled, poison gas pockets and ooze-filled pipes. That's the hazards that we're going to deal with inside of this region, and the enchantment that we get inside of the dungeon tile. It's going to be, the enchantment out here is going to be red because that's the color of the tile in general. And then the dungeon is going to default to the region color, which is blue. That's how we create diversity. We have our hazards from the blue, which is how we got to Dimir. And enchantments. Let's go find our enchantments, and then we'll fill in our creatures. 2 enchantments. We have a red enchantment and a blue enchantment. So we're going to check intensity. We're going to roll 2d4 for the intensity. Got a 7. Moderate. For the blue dungeon, we're going to roll 2d4 again. 4, mild. And let's see what we get. Red enchantment and blue enchantment. Red enchantment first, d6. Well, I got 2d6, so we'll go. Red enchantment's 3, blue enchantment's 6. So red enchantment is Cavalcade of Calamity. Creature's crit expands by 1 per rank. So that means they'll have anywhere from a range of 16 through 20, or first rank would be 19 through 20. So Cavalcade of Calamity, creatures crit more easily. Creature crit in their first level, the third level characters. So that's going to be 19 to 20. And then in the blue enchantment, we rolled a 6. So that's going to be Arcane Laboratory. Characters can only sustain 1 effect at a time. So your third level, you can only sustain 1 effect at a time right now anyway. But if you were a higher rank, you'd be able to sustain multiple aura effects at the same time, but at third level you can only do 1 at a time anyway, so that point's kind of moot. It's kind of like a non-bow, and that's probably for the best. Ooze-filled pipes, so we have monsters, and let's see, so let's go to our monster table to see what our red monster is, and then what our underground blue monster is. So we'll roll a d10 for each. Overland on red is a 4. Is Goblinkin. Oh, we got the greens. That's awesome. Goblinkins. And then in the underbelly of blue, we'll roll a 10 again. We got a 9. That's going to be Invisible Stalker. Holy shit. That's pretty cool. So the Thriving okay, so here's how this stuff works out. Okay, so the creatures here that are awakened, there's extra monsters. So we have Goblinkin as our overland threat, and beneath that, they are scared of the threat of invisible stalkers that come out occasionally and claim victims. Arcane Laboratory is where the invisible stalkers are coming from. The laboratory itself is overrun with poisonous gas pockets and ooze-filled pipes that the invisible stalker gets to ignore, but act as traps for characters. The goblins are afraid to go into the dungeons, but the invisible stalkers occasionally come out and eat and kill goblins. The goblins have crits. They have a 19 or 20 crit range, so if the team starts off hostile with the goblins, then they're going to get into a lot of combat with them. And the chieftain will be a higher CR, so the goblin chieftain will probably be like a CR 3. And so that'll be second rank, so it'll have a crit range of 18 through 20. Plus have all the boss benefits that we showed up above. The Goblinkin could be organized as skirmishers, soldiers, and, well, it's a red tile, not a white tile. So we'll probably call them like skirmishers and artillerists, plus a boss for the Goblinkin. So we'll tack these guys down as skirmishers and artillery for the style of creatures that they are. Plus boss, plus war boss, CR3. So we can take this enchantment and put it top side here. Let's grab this like that. There you go. So again, there is a social opportunity here for you. If you can get if you can get into parlay with the goblins, they will let you go and have safe passage and give you guidance and information if you're willing to delve into the dungeon to eliminate the invisible stalker, the killing dream, as it were, or maybe the killing ghost is what they'll call it. But it's an invisible stalker that's creeping around in the dungeon. They can show you to the dungeon. Going through the dungeon is basically open pipes that occasionally have poison gas and oozes that might attack the team or cause detriments to you. And if you can find the invisible stalker inside of the area and eliminate it or somehow get it to stop, then the goblin will give you safe passage. They'll basically let you stay overnight, and if there's no attacks that night, they won't attack you. If there is an attack that night, they will attack you while you are camping. So that's the deal there. So there we go. And where are we? Oh my God. Okay, so we built those two. We built those two examples within an easy hour. So I kind of gave you guys the upfront on that sort of stuff. I could off screen randomize some more, or as you can see here, there are various flat land red tiles that already exist inside the terrain, so I could just move that to a different area. I got one here, one here, one here, one here. I've got various flat land white tiles which I could put in anywhere inside of here. And yesterday we did an elevated blue tile, and there are other elevated blue tiles among the terrain here. So just because I'm showing you these here now doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the first three tiles that you're going to face. But all three of these are super cool little adventures that you could conduct through. And as long as I don't go too hard on making maps for them and keep them very simple, we can do some very easy grid map combat, some small scale dungeon delving, some parlaying, some trap finding, and overcoming the puzzles and the tricks that are in these areas. I suspect we'll be able to overcome one tile per 3 or 4 hour session. So it looks like each time that we play test, we'll take on a single tile. It's like if you took on the center tile here and you defeat it, then I'll be able to give you some vague information about what's like. This is elevated terrain, so that means that you automatically get to know the colors of all the terrain here. So you get some insights about these different areas. If you're here, then you could opt into moving to one of these other tiles. You won't be able to see beyond these elevated areas. So going up to an elevated area and then surveying allows you to see all the adjacent all the adjacent regions. And when you scout a tile, you can see what the adjacent tiles are. If you are elevated, you can scout regions. If you're on level ground, you can scout adjacent tiles. If you are on sunken land, you don't get to survey anything. You just have to go into the new one raw. So that's the gist of that. I feel as a DM, I've got sufficient firepower here for us to be able to have basically one, maybe I can like lay out a bunch of these so that I know what's going on in the like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got basically 10 tiles here that's possible for the team to get to in 1 or 2 sessions. So hey, super. Yeah. So that's I mean, go check the beginning. We're almost done. So go check the beginning of the session. We just built 2 tiles, and with all the challenges, creatures, and foes that are inside of them, maybe they'll be in the first stretch here, maybe not. But that's the gist of it. So I'm gonna, as a DM, I get to play test these tiles and see how well they play as little micro adventures while the team is play testing the characters using martial powers to overcome the challenges that each tile is presenting. So I get to playtest as a DM the environment and the viability of this as a hex crawl sort of campaign toolkit. And then I'm asking for players to pick or create characters from the martial power system that we have here, so that they can throw mana around and I can see how well it plays out at low levels. So I'm going to be putting up a poll on my Patreon probably in the next day or so, maybe tonight, soon, by tomorrow. I'll have a poll up on my Patreon for paying Patreon members to vote on what day of the week do they prefer, Monday night, Thursday night, or Saturday morning for, like, say, a 4-hour game. And I'll be running that for the next few months, 1 day a week, running a game. Maybe we'll switch up the date each month to see how things weigh out. And if I have enough paying Patreons that are able to show up to the session that's selected, then those paying Patreons will have first seat. If it's on a day that I don't have enough Patreons to fill out the seats, but those are the days that they voted for that won, presumably they're going to show up. They're voting for days they can actually play on. But, I mean, hey, who knows what happens? Strange things can happen. So, presumably, whatever day gets voted for is going to be a day that we're going to pretty much guarantee to have people to play. But my goal is to have anywhere from 3 to 5 participants anytime that we play test. It'll be like a 3.5, 4-hour session, probably a 4-hour session. If we can drive through a tile that quickly, that'd be great. And that's my goal, is to get through a tile. Let's make it 3.5 hours to see if I can get through a tile in 3 hours. That way, if you have a 6-hour session, you could potentially get through 2 tiles. I like the feel of that. But yeah, I'll put up that poll for my paying Patreons to have a vote on which day of the week it's going to be. If I don't have enough seats to fill it out, then I'll go to my Discord and offer any remnant seats up to 5 for people on my Discord. The playtesting will be on my Discord. There's a link to that in the description down below. On my Patreon feed, on the About page, I update that every Friday. And I now feel very confident that I'm going to be able to run this, that there's some cool adventure seeds here. And I think as a pretty experienced DM, I'm going to be able to ad hoc anything necessary here just to create troubles. So we could be, we could be adventuring as soon as, I know I've got, this Thursday, I'm playtesting a Dwarven Battlemaster using the Collar Mana system. So I shan't be on stream on Friday, nor can we playtest that day. Saturday, I've already committed to making sure I have all my asteroids resolved so I can build the asteroid asset packet to bundle with the Spelljammer book, so I can start creating discount bundles for the Spelljammer content that I put out. That means that the earliest date that we may have a playtest, if people vote for it, is Monday. It'll either be Monday, Thursday, or Saturday next week. Potentially 6 days from now. And we're going to run basically 3 weeks at 3rd level, 3 weeks at 5th level, 3 weeks at 7th level, 3 weeks at 9th level. Just basically crushing our way through the Rubble Belt and seeing what kind of terror we can kick up. I have no expectations, results, or plans. I'm just going to be running. It's just a hex scroll campaign, West March style as a DM. You guys pick what tile you want to go into. I will build out that tile. At the end of the session, you've hopefully defeated the tile. And then you decide what is the next tile that you're going to go into. I then build that tile. You guys tackle it next week, defeat it, hopefully, and then choose the next tile. And you may or may not be here the following week, but whoever is here will deal with whatever tile was chosen, with whatever character it is that you decide to come to the table with, either from the pre-generated characters I already have built, or if you grok the system, build your own to try to create your own action loops and your own synergies to basically build your own deck around your character concept. So I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited. I love playtesting as a DM. It's super fucking fun. And it's a necessary step for me to bring all of this to market. I have to test it to know that it works so I can stand behind it as a legitimate product. So if anyone's interested, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications, jump into my Patreon. It's $1. Thanks for the support. I'll have a vote. I'll have a poll up by tomorrow for us to choose which day of the week for the first month. Each month we'll switch dates. So for this upcoming month, we'll go with a poll for what month that'll be. That'll give my Patreons an opportunity to assess how well are they able to show up and do they want to participate again in the future. If we have more Patreons hitting the board, we could potentially see a change of dates and change of seats. I love all my children. So whoever gets to show up to the table and play, until you break something, you're welcome to come back. So there you go. I'm out of here for now. That's my hour. I'll be out for the rest of the day. I will be back tomorrow morning to continue working on the Eberron. We're addressing the dungeons in my Eberron adventure. I have my actual my own home tables tomorrow, so I only stream once tomorrow. Thursday's a rare occasion that I'm playtesting as a player in Drunken Yoda's sample 5-room dungeon. So I shan't be on Thursday night, so I'll be here tomorrow morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, Friday lunch to do a recap on Drunken Yoda's session to see how the playtest went for myself as a battle master, and then we'll do a last minute look at the mechanics that we have going for the martial power system and open up the doors for people to build characters. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the other side. Appreciate your interest. Thanks a lot to the new subscribers that jumped in, and hopefully I'll see you guys on Patreon. Cheers.